Hello everybody, Andrew Field here. I know it's been about a month since my last video, and I apologize for that, but I have since gone back to the university I attend, and I've kept myself busy, but there's been so much news that has been coming out in the past 24 hours that I felt originally I was hoping to maybe make this video over the weekend, but I feel like there's so much urgent news that's happened that I just need to report it with you today. So um, I'm going to get into it. The biggest story I'm going to report is actually a little bit later in the video. I wanted to start off with a bit of older news. Biden gave a speech on the anniversary of the January 6th insurrection. I thought it was a good speech talking about the Capitol officers that got injured, calling out Trump for the lies that he said about the 2020 election, um, and um, also talking about hope of bipartisanship. So I thought it was a good speech by Biden. Um, the Supreme Court ruled that the House can get Trump White House documents, so that was important. The World Health Organization said Omicron won't be the last of COVID variants. Um, Numbers from January 18th were that global cases surged by over 20% in a week, 19 million cases in a week. Numbers of today at least the U.S. reported 919,000 COVID-19 deaths, nearing 1 million. It's a really crazy number that I didn't think we were going to hit. I think I made a video a while ago when the U.S. hit 500,000. I haven't been keeping up with the numbers as much lately, but just seeing that number today just shows how much COVID-19 has impacted the world and the U.S. Even though I didn't check the numbers in a while, I just was really surprised that over 900,000 Americans have died of COVID-19 in the span of about 2 years. So yeah, it's really crazy. Yesterday's numbers, because today's numbers aren't fully complete yet. Germany reported 223,000 cases. Russia reported 141,000 cases. France reported 315,000 cases. And the U.S. yesterday reported 302,000 cases and almost 3,000 deaths. So the good news is that Omicron, I believe, is a dominant strain around the world, it seems like, especially with these staggering numbers of cases every day. So if that is true, that Omicron is the dominant variant, it means that a lot more people are going to get infected, but less people are going to die. So the good news is that even though more people will get sick with COVID, less people are going to be hospitalized and being killed because it's more mild. A lot of people will just experience mild symptoms or no symptoms at all. That's what the research seemed to say since the start of the Omicron variant. So that's good, but we still have to be cautious, especially since so many people are going to get sick and it's so transmissible, this variant in particular. So I wanted to put that out there. You'd think that'd be the biggest story, but no. There is just so much crazy crap that's happened today. So, here we go. Biggest story has been the Russia-Ukraine tensions, aka tensions between Russia and the rest of the world. I don't believe I've reported on this before, and I apologize for that because this is a huge, huge deal. So in the beginning, the U.S. and Russia agreed to hold talks amid fears of Russia attacking Ukraine. If you don't know, Ukraine used to be a territory of the Soviet Union. Soviet Union broke up. Russia has been trying to gain territory over the years, like Georgia and other territories, and they have been they have battled with Ukraine for a little while now, in previous decades, I mean, and they have been trying to infiltrate in eastern Ukraine, I believe, for a little while now as well. But now there were rumors and reports about Russia seeming to plan an attack on Ukraine to try and invade Ukraine. The U.S. Secretary of State Tony Blinken will meet Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov. So it just the news got bigger from there. So Biden met with European leaders, and then the news came out that Russia has a military buildup, and get this, of tens of thousands of troops on Ukraine's borders. Um, the original reports were just about the Russian buildup on the border, and recently I've seen reports that it has been as much as 30,000 Russian troops on the border, eastern border of Ukraine. This is a very big deal. It is very worrisome because obviously if Russia tries to invade Ukraine, the world is not going to just sit by. Um, Something I did not know and something I was very shocked to find out was that Ukraine is actually not a part of NATO. NATO is a global uh, security alliance between the U.S., a lot of Western European nations, along with some Eastern European nations. It has a lot of allies in there, along with some Asian countries that are a part of the alliance. It is a very key alliance to the U.S. and to much of the world. Um, I was very shocked to find out that Ukraine was actually not a part of that alliance as I was doing research into this conflict, the tensions, I should say. Um, I found out that Ukraine, I think, has been trying to get into NATO, but NATO has not accepted them to be a member of NATO yet. But I know the U.S. definitely wants Ukraine to be a part of NATO. I think it makes a whole lot of sense for Ukraine to be a part of NATO. I believe the reason that NATO has not yet enrolled Ukraine into its membership is just the backlash that would happen from Russia. And before these tensions and word of Ukraine being invaded by Russia, I believe um, even though I don't think it was the right decision, I understand the argument about NATO not allowing Ukraine in because that's just increasing tensions. But yeah, this has been really crazy. So the U.S. recently ordered relatives of embassy staff to leave Ukraine, said that Russian invasion could happen, quote unquote, on at any time. My personal opinion is if Russia does any move to try and invade Ukraine or put some other regime in Ukraine or anything like that, the U.S. and all of its NATO allies would need to declare war on China, on Russia. My apologies. U.S. and NATO would need to declare war on Russia because um, Ukraine is a big country, and I think that if you allow Russia to invade Ukraine, that is giving Russia and Vladimir Putin so much power that that would be a really scary thing. So I think that's why tensions are so high, is because the world does seem to know that if Russia tried to invade Ukraine, the U.S. and NATO allies would attack Russia. So for example, the UK, well, this is not the UK talking about military action, but the UK warned that Russia would face severe sanctions if it puts a puppet regime in Ukraine. Um, it just sets the stage of how serious these allegations are that Russia has been planning to try and invade Ukraine. The Pentagon warned that Russia could seize multiple Ukrainian cities. The U.S. and NATO rejected Putin's demands that the alliance halt expansion and bar Kiev. Sorry if I said that incorrectly. Entry. The U.S. said, oh, and this came out right before I was about to make this video. The U.S. said that Russia is planning a stage attack from Ukraine. Like they were going to have cameras and this video come out that we're going to try and convince the world that Ukraine attacked Russia, and so by Russia invading Ukraine, it would be an act of self-defense. Um, so U.S. intelligence just released that recently, and they said that they declassified the information to try and stop Russia from trying to do that tactic, which is very dangerous. Um, so to justify the invasion, and very recently, I believe either yesterday or the day before, the U.S. deployed over 3,000 troops in Germany, Poland, and Romania. So I believe that it is the right move because if the U.S. were to deploy troops directly in Ukraine or obviously in Russia, but even in Ukraine, I think that would be too much of a buildup where it would lead to global conflict. But it is still a big decision, and Russia did not take kindly to the fact that the U.S. put troops in Germany, Poland, and Romania. That was a big decision there. And I just wanted to point out the fact that Senator Lindsey Graham approved of the move, and I've seen a couple things from him lately. I don't really like Senator Lindsey Graham that much, but I have seen a couple things he said that have been trying to distance himself from other Republicans. So I did want to point that out because Senator Lindsey Graham did approve of the move for the U.S. to put the troops there and to counter Russia and its threats, which I deem important because there are some extremist Republican Congress members out there that, like I believe Josh Hawley was one of them, who was saying that the U.S. shouldn't try and block or shouldn't try and allow Ukraine to be a part of NATO and things that were going along with the Russian narrative. So very dangerous stuff. So I wanted to, even though it's a low bar, that Senator Lindsey Graham did a good job to talk in the way of American interests versus some extremist Republicans that are saying a different narrative. And also, Senator Lindsey Graham was approving of Biden's Supreme Court nominee, and I'll get to that in a little bit. So, in a press conference marking 1 year into office, President Biden had a long press conference and answered a lot of questions from reporters about the job he's been doing so far. And I think I've said this before, but I don't think he's done a great job. I don't think he's done a horrible job either. I think he's done okay. There's obviously a lot to improve on, but I think he's done okay so far. He has had a lot to deal with COVID, infrastructure, global relations and everything like that. But I hope that in the future and especially by the end of his term that he would have improved, or he will have improved. So big news from the U.S. Supreme Court. U.S. Supreme Court Justice Stephen Breyer will retire, which allows Biden to nominate a new Supreme Court justice. And Biden already said that he will pick a black woman for the role of Supreme Court justice, and that would be the first black woman to be nominated to the Supreme Court. So I stand by this decision. Obviously, there were some conservatives that were, criticizing the move, but for us to be around America for several hundred years and to not have not one black woman on the Supreme Court, I believe that is due time for that. And it seems there are a few good candidates out there that President Biden is looking over. So I think it's a good decision for him to do that. And it goes well with Biden and his message in the past and now about including more diversity in important positions like the president, the vice presidency, and now possibly the Supreme Court, and just about the representation of different races in prominent positions, which could give hope to a lot of younger people. So I really like the move, and it's great time because this month is Black History Month, so that would be a really cool thing also. And then major news that came out this morning was that President Biden said a U.S. raid that happened in Syria killed ISIS leader Abu al-Qurayshi. I'm sorry if I said his name wrong, but this coward, apparently, more news has come out since this morning, and this coward, this ISIS leader, which is now thankfully dead, apparently as U.S. Special Forces were set to capture him, blew himself up along with some of his family members. He was hiding behind civilians and his own family, and when the U.S. Special Forces came to arrest him, he blew himself up and family members. So that just speaks to the cowardice of terrorists in general, especially ISIS. So yeah, but that was really good news, and it seems like the U.S. has done a better job at targeting and being able to eliminate leaders of terrorist organizations, which is a good thing. And I also read about how President Biden, I think, was asked about civilian casualties, and he was saying that it would have been easier for a drone strike to just, blow up the area that um, the ISIS leader was at. But seeing that he was hiding behind a large number of civilians, President Biden decided instead to send a special force unit and risk their lives to be able to take out the leader of ISIS. So that was big news and very great. Um, and thank you to the American forces that keep doing their job diligently and taking out great threats like the ISIS leader. So there was a man who held hostages inside a Texas synagogue, which died, and a major update in the Ahmaud Arbery sentencing. This was a little while ago, so again, I'm sorry for not reporting this earlier, but the three men who were involved in the killing of Ahmaud Arbery were all convicted of murdering Ahmaud Arbery and were sentenced to life in prison. Two of them without parole. So that was a very big news story that came out, and it's a great sign of justice there, holding these people, these criminals, accountable. So California Governor Newsom a while back signed an executive order prohibiting price gouging of at-home COVID-19 test kits, which I thought was a really good move because at the time, especially when this news first came out, because test kits I'm sure are still hard to get, but they were a lot harder to get at the time, and price gouging test kits would have been a horrible thing. So for him to prevent that was a good idea. The U.S. Consumer Price Inflation Index rose 7% over the past year, the steepest climb since 1982. Grocery prices rose 6.5%, and the Energy Cost Index rose 29.3% over the past year. The Biden administration did a smart move, in my opinion. They pushed to halt the USPS plan to spend up to $11.3 billion on up to 165,000 gas-powered delivery trucks over the next decade, citing the climate danger and, especially since he was trying to have these progressive moves to try and slow down climate change, that would have been a very bad step. So I hope that they are able to halt the USPS plan and redesign it to be more environmentally friendly, because that would have been very costly, that plan, for the environment. If you don't know who this person is, you really should. Legendary radio host Howard Stern, who is very funny, ripped Novak Djokovic apart because he is a professional tennis player and a bad person, because he is not only an anti-vaxxer, but when you have that sort of presence as an international celebrity, he tried to argue against getting vaccinated, saying it was a private decision. I think another argument of his was he got COVID in 2020, so he thought that he didn't need to get the vaccine 2 years later. It's a very bad argument. Howard said that he should not be able to play professional tennis anymore, which I agree. Novak was actually deported from Australia after losing a visa battle in court, so it was a very good deal. They kicked him out of Australia, and he wasn't able to compete in the Australia Open, so that was very good news. In court, the U.S. Supreme Court blocked Biden's vaccine or test policy for large businesses. This was a big deal. This was a big policy that President Biden was trying to put in place to try and protect people in large settings, I believe. So that was a big deal for that to get rejected. Starbucks suspends vaccine test requirements after U.S. court ruling. which I don't think was a good idea because I think it would have been important for Starbucks to try and implement that anyway. The Supreme Court is considering challenges to race-conscious admission policies at Harvard and the University of North Carolina. Also, Maya Angelou became the first black woman on the U.S. quarter. CNN President Jeff Zucker resigned after acknowledging a consensual, undisclosed relationship with a colleague. And then some news on the NFL. The Washington NFL team, which had to change their name after formerly being called the Washington Redskins, changed their name to the Washington Commanders, which is a tribute to Washington's military ties. I think it's a pretty good name. Brian Flores sued the NFL alleging discrimination against black coaches. I believe it said there's only one black coach in the whole NFL, with Mike Tomlin. And he had some damning evidence, including text messages. So we'll see how that goes, but it's definitely a bad sign of the NFL. And it seems like Brian Flores has some reasonable arguments there, from what I saw. And I just want to end it out here because I very much dislike Aaron Rodgers. So this news came out right before his NFC Championship game. Aaron Rodgers made more ridiculous comments criticizing President Biden, trying to promote being unvaccinated, and then he got canned out of the playoffs at home. So that was a very good thing. And just wanted to say that the Super Bowl this year is between the Bengals and the Rams. Nobody thought the Bengals were going to make it to the Super Bowl. Rams built a super team led by Matt Stafford, former Detroit Lion. That should be a really good game. And yeah, that's all the news I have for you. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you have a good rest of your day. See ya.